Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for your patience. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Sunil Singhvi. My job here is Head of Music and Entertainment for Twitter UK. To give you an idea of who's in the room is filled with some lovely people who've won competitions to come here to see Russell talk this evening. So thank you to everyone that used the hashtag MyRevolution and came to be part of tonight's event. We also have members of the Twitter team and some invited guests as well. Over the 8 years since Twitter first emerged, Twitter has become a place for debate, strong opinions and global themes. And tonight we've got someone that really embodies that spirit. Russell will be reading from his book as well as answering some questions and then doing a signing afterwards. So, ladies and gentlemen, your hands together for Mr. Russell Brand.
Thanks for that introduction. I was listening to it. All right, everyone, hello. What people have either they work here or they...
Competition winners, mostly. These are people that used MyRevolution to give their reasons for coming down tonight.
Thank you. Is this work? Oh, yeah, that feels good. Who won a competition, then? Thank you for doing that. Thank you for participating. Who works at Twitter? Who is a journalist? They'll never tell you anyway. It's like having to admit you're racist. I am a bit racist. Right.
So we're going to start tonight with talking about revolution. It's the obvious place to be. And I think it would be great for... There's a lot of people in the room, in fact, everyone in the room has a copy of the book now. Real bricks. Everyone has a copy of the book now, but most people in the room will have picked it up for the first time today.
Honestly.
They would have held it for the first time. So touched it for the first time. Caressed, nice. Some might say. So I thought it would be great to start with one of your favourite pieces from the book, or something that felt good to read in a room.
All right, yeah, I'll do that. It's nice here, is it?
Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah. Like this is where you work. You work here in charge of the entertainment? Right. It's interesting. It's good. You've not been here too long, have you? What was the atmosphere like? Were you milling about in the room and then you sat down in preparation for this bit?
Sadly, if you put chairs down, people will always sit straight away.
That's an interesting experiment. Like, I read about some experiment where there was a room where smoke was slowly put under the door, but people were told, oh, don't worry, it's safe. And, people just would stay there. I mean, all of us think as individuals, we would go, well, I wouldn't. But apparently we all would.
Just to be clear, there is no smoke.
I'm not suggesting that we recreate it. All right. So you think start with a reading?
I'd love to.
The book. Has anyone read any book yet? No. Any books ever? Oh no, I don't like to waste my time reading books.
A lot of listening to books.
Yeah. Has anyone read any of this book yet?
I think we had a couple.
You read a bit like just now. What, just start at the beginning, or did you just pick up a bit arbitrarily?
To the chapter that said something about infinite space.
Infinite space, oh yeah, I think that's a good bit. That's it, yeah. What is that bit, infinite space? It's good when you write a book. It's a lot of typing. You have to do 2,000 words a day, really, to feel like you're cracking on. You have to eliminate all other options. If there's anything else you could be doing instead of writing a book, you'll do that thing. That means Wi-Fi's got to go. Yeah, the people that laughed, that was a tacit admission. Okay, infinite. I'll just look at that infinite space just because it just sounds like an interesting bit to do. I am an anarchist. It's big, but it's not easy. Benign monarch, within you, without you. That's quite a good bit. All right, I'll read a funny, silly bit, 109, and then I'll... This is a suggestion, right? You know, any of you that saw... I did a TV show in America for a while called Brand X. It was mad. It was really mad. And on it once, I had the Westbury Baptist Church on. They're them people that turn up at funerals and sort of say stuff like, God hates fags.
Yeah.
It doesn't say that in the Bible. That's really an interpretive liberty, I think, to sort of like to look at the Bible and then go, well, I think he hates fags. Because there's no bit in there where like it doesn't at any point explicitly or even like subtly or metaphorically go, God, as well as all the creative stuff, you know, creatures great and small, all of that stuff, hate fags. It's like it's an interesting interpretation. Anyway, I spoke to them on that TV show, and that was a sort of a highlight of it. I met the reason I mention it now is because I met this bloke Matt Stoller, who's the little brother of Nick Stoller, who directed Get 'Em to the Greek and Sarah Marshall and that film recently, Bad Neighbours. He's a good film director, and like his little brother Matt is sort of like a sort of like kind of an intelligent, wonkish guy. And I met him. I went to that Occupy thing, like sort of like the Wall Street one, and I met him there. And he told me sort of really quickly why the Occupy movement was important. He said, he goes, normally protest movements can't get traction because protest movements are funded often by private funds, and those in turn are owned by corporations or private donors. So there's always a place where leverage can be applied. The reason Occupy is successful is because there's no position to apply pressure from, because it's a disparate group of laterally organised individuals. And I thought, I like how this person talks. So I became friends with him, kidnapped him, made him be on my TV show, which he wasn't qualified to do or particularly good at, but was forced to do nonetheless. And I asked, when I wrote the book, I goes to him, give us a couple of ideas that would be good for, like if you were going to overthrow the government, if you're going to have a revolution, what would you do? Some people thought of, some people gave clear examples of direct democracy or cooperatives, real things that have like a great deal of administrative clarity. Or David Graeber with his debt cancellation, like that we should cancel debt, personal and private debt, as opposed to financial and corporate debt, which happens all the time, But Matt's things were like evil mind game ideas. Here's like one of them's really cool. I'll read it to you because I think you'll like it. So, like, the first idea he came up was cancel private security, which was tough for me because I sometimes have private security to stop me getting, say, like beaten up after a show or something, or during a show when I was younger and on drugs. I would sometimes have to have a fight during the show. It's like challenging to do that. That's why now I can be sort of quite confident in an environment like this. Where I think, these people are a bit quiet, but I think, but what's not happening is someone's not stabbing me with a broken glass.
Fair.
Like anything that's not being stabbed with a broken glass, I sort of think, well, I've had worse. So the first idea he had was like get rid of private security. He said that in America, for example, there are more people hired to do private security than there are school teachers, and rich people use private security to defend their interests, right? So he said if you didn't have people defending their interests, then you'd have to live in a more equal society. His second idea, no offence, mate, because I'm imagining you're doing private security. And let me tell you, if it fucking kicked off, you're the direction I'd be running in. I'll be leaping in your inside pocket. Carry me home, burly protector. His second idea was really funny as well. So his first idea was that one, get rid of private security, all right? So let's have a look at what the second idea was. Given that Matt's first suggestion has brought about a terrifying free-for-all and likely reignited the war between India and Pakistan, because I talk about this bit when I was in India, I was curious to see what else he had up his sleeve, what else he had up the sleeve of his Harvard blazer. Yes, he did go to Harvard, the bloody hypocrite. His next idea to create a different world was equally cunning and revolutionary. Get rid of all titles. Mr. President, Ambassador, Admiral, Senator, the Honourable, Your Honour, Captain, Doctor. These are all titles that capitalism relies on to justify treating some people better than other people. And that was Matt talking there. Matt is an American, so when it comes to deferring to the entitled, let's face it, he's an amateur compared to the British. Look at me, simpering to Professor Slingerland, who I interview earlier in the book, whenever he's mentioned. I can't wait to prostrate myself before his sceptre of diplomas. I'm a right little lick-spittle sneak down the doctors and all. Yes, doctor. No, doctor. Please don't let me die, doctor. Charge what you must, doctor. Stick your finger where you fancy, doctor. Plus, in our country, England, we've got a bloody royal family. What's Matt going to say about that? This is Matt again. One of the most remarkable things you learn when you work in a position of political influence is just how much titles separate the wealthy and the politicians from citizens. Ordinary people will use a title before addressing someone, and that immediately makes that ordinary person a supplicant and the titled one a person of influence. Or if both have titles, then there's upper class solidarity. Rank, hierarchy. These are designed to create a structure whereby power is shaped in the very act of greeting someone. I'm getting angry again. Matt's right. Titles are part of the invisible architecture of our social structure. I'm never using one again. If I ever see that Professor Slingerland in the street, I shall alert him by hollering, "Oi, fuckface!" then throw a hazelnut at him, because he talks about this hazelnut experiment. What does Matt propose? And this is back to Matt. One thing you can do to negate this power is to be firm but respectful and address anyone and everyone by their last name. Mr., Ms. or Mrs. is all the title you should ever need. This allows you to treat everyone as your equal, and it shows everyone that they should treat you as their equal. Right, fair enough. I went in a bit hard there on old Teddy Slingerland, or just Mr. Slingerland, according to Matt's polite revolution. His suggestion of equal titles for all of us is provocative, particularly those of us who live in monarchies. I mean, in England, we have a queen, for fuck's sake, a queen. We have to call her things like Your Majesty. Your Majesty, like she's all majestic, like an eagle or a mountain. She's just a person, a little old lady in a shiny hat that we paid for. Or, Your Highness, what the fuck is that? What, she's high up above us at the top of a class pyramid on a shelf of money with her own face on it? We should be calling her, according to Matt, Mrs. Windsor. In fact, that's not even her real name. They changed it in the war to distract us from the inconvenient fact that they were as German as the enemy that teenage boys were being encouraged, conscripted actually, to die fighting. Her actual name is Mrs. Saxe-Coburg-Gotha. Mrs. Saxe-Coburg-Gotha. No wonder they fucking changed it. It's the most German thing I've ever heard. She might as well have been called Mrs. Bratwurst Kraut Nazi. Titles have got to go. I'm not calling her Your Highness or Your Majesty just so we can pretend there isn't and hasn't always been an international cabal of rich landowners flitting merrily across the globe, getting us all to kill each other a couple of times a decade. From now on, she's Frau Saxe-Coburg-Gotha. Come on, Frau Saxe-Coburg-Gotha. It's time for you to have breakfast with her Saxe-Coburg-Gotha, and you can make it yourselves. And by the way, we're nicking this fucking great castle you've been dossing in and giving it to 100 poor families. Actually, you can stay if you want. They'll need a cleaner. You'll have to watch your lip, though, here, Saxe-Coburg-Gotha. Some of them ain't white. So there you go. There's a little dig at Prince Philip, who we happen to know is casually racist. Yeah, I've read that bit now. Oh, I'm suddenly so hungry. Has anyone got banana? Why do I always need bananas? What's fucking wrong with me? It's in my life eating them.
I think we can see if we can find a banana. I've got a sinking feeling that we're going to have lots of chocolate, but no
bananas. Like in the war. Okay. There's this bit. Okay, I could read another bit that's a bit more. That's like a sort of an idea that's a bit of fun, but makes you think. Like, why do you go around calling people El Presidente or Your Majesty? It's weird, and everyone should just go, all right, mate, how's it going? To whoever you are. And like, I do it myself, so it sort of tacitly admits that there's things in here that would require change from me. This thing here occurs in a section where my mate John Rogers researched our cooperatives work, a different economic model for running a business. You know what I mean? Like, it's not the only way for running a business isn't for profit. There's like loads of different ways you can do it. But if you just try fucking mentioning that shit in the newspapers, it's like you've said, I want to fuck kids. Honestly, and I tell you why, it's because it's heresy. That's what it is. It's like capitalism's a religion. So if you talk outside of that religion, it's like, you fucking shut up! Like, well, some of the things that have been mad is that with how angry people have got, I've sort of gone, all I've gone is some other ideas. Yeah. It's honestly, like, what make people so angry? Why does it create so much energy? Where does the energy come from? It must be coming from resistance, because, you know, you just go, oh, I don't care. The energy is interesting to me, because you're challenging people's core beliefs, I now realise. Also, people sort of, like, egoic is one of the attacks as well. Like, oh, that's egotistical. Of course I'm egotistical. Look at me. Look at my job. Look at the fucking cover of the book. I'm an egomaniac. So what? Like all people, 50 years, death. You know, and then I think, like, where do attacks come from? If someone attacks you for being egotistical, what bit of them do they think they're attacking you from? Their toenails? It's their ego. Everyone has ego. Ego is like as much of the human nature as teeth. Just a thing that people have. It's just a thing in a world. It's what you do with it what matters. It's what you do with your ego. Here's the thing about cooperatives. This bit's a bit more hardcore. The other bit's like a bit, you know, silly, don't really matter, because you can change calling people titles whenever you want, innit?
Hopefully.
It's not hard, Sunil. Russ, you could call me. Yeah.
Mr. Brand.
Oh, God. Okay, so this is in that co-op bit. The values of community development, democracy and opportunity are emptily bandied about from politicians' mouths every time I see them on my telly. They're forever up on podiums, thumb on top of index finger like Clinton was taught to do, telling us they want us to have opportunities and build communities and participate in democracy, telling me I'm irresponsible for not voting, gloating that they're participating by door stopping and flesh pressing and press fleshing and baby kissing. As soon as the red camera light goes off, their expressions change and they go back to their true agenda, meeting the needs of big business. It isn't even their fault. It's a systemic corruption that they unavoidably serve. By the time you get to be an MP, you've spent so long on your knees sluicing down acrid mouthfuls of Beelzebub's cum that all you can do is cough up froth. We can't blame them or even condemn them. We just have to ignore them. Elsewhere in the world, modest versions of these ideas are already implemented, whether it's Portugal, where drug users are no longer pointlessly criminalised, or Switzerland, where democracy is already more inclusive and referenda on civil issues are a regular occurrence, or Iceland, where corrupt bankers were booted out and told to sling their hooks re bailouts, or Germany, where large companies, including Bayern Munich FC, have workers, and in that case fans, on the board of directors. It's worth noting, by the way, that Iceland, you know Iceland, Björk, Aurora Borealis, Iceland, in 2008 had a revolution. They peacefully overthrew their government precisely because of the financial piracy and debt enslavement which the rest of the world continues to be tortured by. They did this by mass civil disobedience and the replacement of their corrupt parliamentary system with an assembly of representatives taken from the population, not people who'd been conditioned and groomed to compliantly abide by the system that exploits them. They refused to pay back the international debt they were told they owed, and because they were unified, there was nothing anyone could do to stop them. If it worked for them, it can work for us. These modest measures are working. These suggestions don't just amount to play nice like some equal opportunity PC claptrap to hold out a hand to the disadvantaged. They work better. The German economy is the strongest in Europe, perhaps because its workforce feels invested in its efforts instead of trolling around like eunuch mannequins, castrated and hopeless, waiting for a 2-week holiday. What we must now demand is a radically altered society. We've gone way off track, put some absurd people and institutions in charge of our planet, and it's time for radical change. That change cannot come from within the system. The successes I've listed above are improvements, and improvements are better than a kick in the balls from Bobby Charlton, but I think we can aim higher than the incremental change or modest reform outlined here. I think we'd be a bit disappointed if all this talk of utopia, ditching capitalism and revolution boiled down to we want to be a bit more like Germany. Fuck that. Remember, we have no choice. There are ecological imperatives that have done our thinking for us. The planet is in trouble. There has never in all the history of our dopey, lovely species been a time of such inequality. The time for change is now. Will that change be delivered by David Cameron or Ed Miliband or Hillary Clinton or Barack Obama? Of course not. Look at them. Just look at them. You're not an idiot. You can see what they are. Look at their eyes. They are all avatars of the same neoliberal concept, part of the problem, not the solution. We have to immediately dispatch with the notion that we'll get any dice whatsoever from people who already have jobs in oak-panelled rooms with leather seating. Cast your mind back to the end-of-term glee that accompanied Barack Obama's "Yes, we can, time for change, ain't we neat" election. There was such hope, such optimism, but what happened? Nothing. Nothing was ever going to happen. Nothing could happen in that context. That's the old point. The joy of Obama's presidency after 8 years of Bush amounts to an insipid blowjob at the end of a rotten evening. Very nice for a moment, but who's actually going to mop up the mess? We are, obviously. All else has failed. It's time for a revolution. Thank you.
Brilliant, thank you for that. We're going to open the floor to a couple of questions. We're just going to take 2 or 3 from the floor, but I wanted to just start with one question. You've been talking about revolution for quite a long time now, since the first it came to prominence with the sort of Newsnight piece. And one of the things that I thought has been very interesting is that people seem to have missed your point that you're not advocating yourself as the leader of it.
No, I'm not.
Has it felt like a disappointment that there is still a constant need for someone to be a leader of this revolution?
Yeah, I suppose, like, what I think is that, like, you know, like, I've done a show, Messiah Complex, about sort of iconic figures like Malcolm X and Che Guevara and Christ and Gandhi. And because they exemplify such incredible human values, we get sort of excited about those figures. But the reality is those human values exist in humans. We all have access to that kind of behaviour, that kind of bravery. And in fact, behind every Che Guevara or Gandhi or Malcolm X, there's millions of people that are sacrificing their lives and fighting for the cause. And like, whilst it's interesting, it's important, I suppose, to have icons and symbols and signs to enable us to tell stories and to present information. The fact is that any significant movement has got to be everybody, or like, you know, a considerable number of people. So it's like it's accessing the leader within yourself. Now, sort of what I think I can do is like what I've just been doing is like that. If like with the housing crisis that's in London, when people are organising to confront greedy landlords, like at the New Era estate in Hoxton, that's owned by the brother of Richard Benyon, who is the richest MP in our country, and they're turfing out the residents so they can earn yet more profit. They already make a profit. I think, oh, right, their campaign at the moment can only go so far, but I can make it go further by doing what I can do. Like, and like any of us can contribute in like what you have to, what I believe is you find something that's local to you, that's relevant to you. Maybe someone in your family is affected by a particular disease, or like, so that you'll suddenly become aware of the NHS, or someone near to you is affected by a housing issue, and you're like, oh, right, I can do something about that. And like, just, and what I recommend, and what I think will be powerful, Sunil, is like if you go, right, instead of writing a letter to your MP, or not instead as, you know, as well as if you want, you can also do that, like think, well, how can we organise and be involved in creative direct action? That's what I endorse, creative direct action. Do you know what I've discovered in my own life? A lot of people will do what's easiest. So you just have to make it hard for them to do what they want to do. The people that own that estate, they want to make more profit. So what we have to do is make that the hardest thing for them to do, because then they will realise that's the wrong decision. We make it hard for them to make that profit by organising, you know? So like with the fire brigade, with them cutting all their wages, cutting the services of something that's pretty vital. If you know, as soon as you're on fire, you won't think, I want 20% less water on my burning leg. You know, like, you know, you're realising that moment it's important. So you have to make it hard, like think, oh, let's make it impossible for them to cut those services by supporting the fire brigade, by not thinking in sort of short, like, you know, there is fucking money. There's trillions and trillions of dollars, billions of pounds pumped into propping up an economy which is meant to be defined by capitalist creed, survival of the fittest. They already have bailouts, they already have socialism, but just socialism for the rich. So no, it's not like, you know, like, this is an important point, I think. You know, like, it's not like David Cameron's actually evil. You know what I mean? He's just a bloke in a position, and that position it vibrates on the frequency of selfishness and greed. So if you put me there, or any of us, it's not like some magical individual is going to unicorn us out of trouble. You know, if a system's built on greed and selfishness, that's what's going to perpetuate. So really what you need is different structures, different ideology. The heroic individuals are transient.
Perfect. So questions from the floor. We've got microphones around, so we can come to them. We've got a gentleman just down here with a fist bump on his shirt.
Oh, it's a Free Palestine shirt. Russell, would you consider yourself an English Che Guevara, as you do kind of look like him already?
Thanks, because one of the things that's good about Che Guevara is he looked fucking cool. But he's a complex figure, Che Guevara. You know, like sort of the Cuban Revolution in its immediate aftermath had some serious shades of homophobia, and like I think they were a bit brutal in some areas. So like he's a perfect example. He was a brilliant icon. He was fucking like knees deep in revolution. But like for a time like now, he's a military figure, a military leader. Interesting, like from an aristocratic background, got stuck in with the revolution. You've got to admire him for that. There's loads of things to admire about him. So those admirable qualities, including the hair and beard, I would certainly like to emulate, but not the homophobia and brutal murders. You know, but I think it's possible, isn't it, to admire something about someone, but and then not, you know, say that you're endorsing everything.
Yeah, I think the notion that you would wholeheartedly say, I will be the English Che Guevara, is frightening on many levels.
Because of the killing.
Exactly that.